I finally get to say an official good morning. So good morning, all of you. It is wonderful to see your beautiful faces this morning, and to you folks online, although I can't see your faces. Ooh, it got bright again. It always happens like right when I think I can see the page, and then it shifts everything. So although I can't see your faces online, I know they're just as beautiful as those before me, and it's wonderful to know that you're there too. I realized while writing the intro to this talk that I don't tell you nearly often enough how incredibly grateful I am that you're joining us, whether every week or occasionally, or you're here for the very first time. In a busy world where it's so easy to be pulled in 100 different directions every minute, I am so very thankful that you've chosen to spend time with us here in this sacred space. So thank you. Now, if you've been joining us these last 8 weeks, you know we've just finished 5 very powerful series of talks, a series of 5 powerful talks. I worded that all backwards, but you knew what I meant, right? And those talks are about being in the now. And yes, I am aware that I said 5 talks in 8 weeks. And I pointed out those extra weeks because if you were not here for our 3 speakers, you will want to ask somebody after the service, make a friend, and find out who came, because it was a pretty big deal. Since most of us have been present for my talks on being in the now, I know that everyone here, in person or online, is actually here now. Because remember, when you're living in your mind, when you're reliving the past or imagining the future, you're not here. You're detached from what's actually happening around you, and you're missing all of the wonderful stuff that the universe has been tirelessly surrounding you with throughout every day of your life. And so I know you're all out of your minds. In this case, being out of your minds is a good thing, because you're fully present, and you're awake, and aware, and engaged, and ready to embrace some more powerful practices to transform your life into one that's more joyful and fulfilling than you could have ever dreamed of. And if you keep coming for the next 15 weeks, you'll be able to step into life with a capital L. So aware of who and whose you are, so vitally present in every moment, so unified and harmonious with all around you, and so blissfully relaxed into your expression of oneness that the transformation you've made begins to shift the world around you into one of peace and joy and wonder. And we can all agree that the world needs those things, right? Yeah, it does. And honestly, I want to know, do you believe me when I say that you can change not only your life, but you can change the world?
Yes. Yes.
That you have a very significant stake in creating the world we all want to experience?
Yes.
If any of you don't believe that, I challenge you to really, really employ these tools I am giving you with diligence. And when you have questions, come and ask me. Really do the work. And if you don't begin to notice the world around you becoming more wonderful, we'll keep on working until you do. Because that's the thing. When you really get it, get it. You know what I mean, right? When you really get it, the world is better. And because you see it that way, those around you begin to see it through your eyes, unknowingly. And little by little, big changes happen all around you. So learn something, engage it, make it stick, then, and here's the biggest part, show others how to do it. That's all there is to it. Pay it forward. And if you still don't believe me, wait for this. So yesterday, during one of my writing breaks, I was scrolling through the YouTube shorts because I have a very short attention span, and that's the kind of TV I can get behind. You give me 3 minutes, I'm there with you. So this, have you ever been on there? Y'all have seen those, right? Those little shorts? Okay, and sometimes you just get a random one, right? And you go, ugh. Well, this one, it was just a picture. And it had words over it, and it read Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. And before you came out of the womb, I sanctified you and ordained you a prophet to the nations. Now that verse wasn't new to me, but all at once and quite unexpectedly, sitting there at my dining room table, my dining room bookshelf, really, I immediately found myself choking up with this profound surge of emotion. And I examined that because I didn't know where that was coming from for a second. And I realized the deep truth that lies in those words for all of us. If, and it's a big if we choose to listen and act. And as you keep reading that biblical dialogue between God and Jeremiah, you come to another truth in verses 18 and 19. He says, for behold, I have made you this day like a fortified city, and like an iron pillar, and like a brass fence against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, against their princes, against their priests, against their prophets, and against all the people of the land. And they shall fight with you, but they shall not prevail against you, for I am with you to deliver you, said the Lord. Now, before some of you get all bunched up and Bible-y at me, hear me out, okay? I am not likening each of us to Jeremiah. I am not saying that every one of us was named a prophet. I am saying that when we live in every moment, when we're fully engaged and one with all, when we have completely suspended judgments and overcome our loud ego and relaxed into total forgiveness, we can walk through the world unburdened. We can walk through the world entirely at peace, in peace. The kind of peace which nothing can disturb, no matter how loudly it hollers or with how much force it comes. And that state of being unshakable is profound. We are, in those moments, protected from all of that chaos that used to keep us at odds with ourselves and the world around us. And we can walk through the world with love and respect and kindness for everything and everyone in it. We can walk through the world fortified, just like Jeremiah, embodying love and expressing our God-given divinity simply by being present and being who we are. Yes, before you were born, God knew you and blessed you and whispered to you that your hands can change the world and make it better. Everyone was given this gift, even the people who make it difficult for us to like them. It's up to each of us to remember, listen, and do it. And we've taken the first steps toward doing it as we've stepped into the now. So here we are. We're observing the moment. And one of the first fundamental realizations which all of the great teachers of nowness seem to have in common is that nearly all thought and resulting action comes from a place of judgment. Our self-worth and the value we place on those around us come from judgment. Every opinion, no matter how big or small, regardless of whether we deem it positive or negative, is a judgment. And it is these judgments which separate us from everything that is. Every time we hold something at arm's length, examine it, and decide what we think of it, we create distance. And it is that huge wall of distance which we've built throughout our lives, which needs to be torn down brick by brick in order for us to reconnect actively to that place where spirit resides. And as I sat down to figure out how I wanted to tackle these lessons about judgment, I realized just how big a task that is. I myself had, for whatever reason, held the idea of what's actually entailed in teaching about judgment at arm's length, and therefore mistakenly deemed it an easily doable 5-week task if you add in the upcoming workshop and retreat exercises. But upon close examination, I realized that, golly, is it a lot to unpack. But as I set about unpacking it, the one thing which was always obvious to me was that judgment and fear are in powerful and permanent partnership. And that's a really important observation, because it tells me that if we can permanently suspend our own judgment, then separate from ego, we can let go of the fear of being judged by others, which is a really big one. It's the ego that is responsible for that particular fear's existence. If you Google phrases like overcoming judgment, no judgment, freedom from judgment, those kinds of things, what is returned is all kinds of resources for overcoming your fear of judgment. Almost nothing comes up about separating from your own judgment, and I found nothing at all about the impact of all the everyday judging we do all day, every day, how that impacts our quality of life. So let's start there. And because we have focused on his friends from the 100-acre wood through the lens held up by Benjamin Hoff in the Tao of Fu, I'd like to take some time to visit with and I quote, a small and frightfully fearful animal who goes by the name of Piglet. Another of Hoff's books is The Day of Piglet, and boy does Piglet have a torturous case of judgment-induced anxiety. But before we journey into those woods with Christopher Robin, I'd like to share with you something borrowed from the Taoists. Chuang-Tzu called it the age of perfect virtue, and he said, in the age of perfect virtue, men lived among the animals and birds as members of one large family. There were no distinctions between superior and inferior to separate one man or species from another. All retained their natural virtue and lived in the state of pure simplicity. In the age of perfect virtue, wisdom and ability were not singled out as extraordinary. The wise were seen merely as higher branches of humanity's tree, growing a little closer to the sun. People behaved correctly without knowing that to be righteousness and propriety. They loved and respected each other without calling that benevolence. They were faithful and honest without considering that to be loyalty. They kept their word without thinking of good faith. In their everyday conduct, they helped and employed each other without considering duty. They did not concern themselves with justice, as there was no injustice. Living in harmony with themselves, each other, and the world, their actions left no trace. And so we have no record of their existence. And what led to the here and now as we know it is called the Great Separation. And Taoists throughout the centuries have striven to attain the state of perfect virtue ever since, through discarding whatever prevents harmony with Tao. And remember, Tao is everything. Tao is God and all that is. Now that we have a platform of understanding to stand on, let's examine the title of this little piggy's book, The Day of Piglet. So what is the day? In classical Chinese, day is written two ways. The first joins the character for upright to the character for heart. Its meaning is virtue. The second adds the character for left foot, which in Chinese signifies stepping out. Its meaning is virtue in action. Day is not, as its English language equivalent suggests, a one-size-fits-all sort of goodness or admired behavior that can be recognized as essentially the same no matter who possesses it, like that virtues program we examined a couple of months ago. That's our concept. Instead, to them, it is a quality of special character, spiritual strength, or hidden potential unique to the individual. Something that comes from the inner nature of things, and something we might add that the individual who possesses it may be quite unaware of, as is the case with Piglet through most of the Pooh series. So we're going to transform our English idea of virtue into virtue that steps out, with Piglet leading the way. And we're specifically looking at the way we allow our judgment of others to shape the way we fear others' judgment of us, and the way we allow others' judgments of life to create all new fears for us, ones we would have never thought of on our own, but once someone mentions it, in the words of my youngest son, new nightmare unlocked. Because as we move forward from here, I think you'll begin to see with me that that's how it all works. From page 53 of The Day of Piglet. "What's the matter, Piglet?" I asked. "I was walking through the flowers just now," he said, "singing a little song when Eeyore came up." "Oh, Eeyore. What happened?" He said, "Be careful, little Piglet. Someone might pick you along with those pansies and put you in a vase on the mantelpiece. And then what would you do?" And then he walked away, chuckling to himself. Oh, don't mind Eeyore. He just likes to make others feel small, especially if they're smaller than he is anyway. That makes him look big, he thinks. I wouldn't mind his being miserable by himself if he enjoys it so, but why does he have to spread it around? Poor Piglet. He definitely unlocked a new nightmare thanks to Eeyore, didn't he? There is something in each of us, it seems, that somehow wants to be unhappy. It creates in our imaginations problems that don't yet exist, quite often causing them to come true. It exaggerates problems that are already there. It reinforces low self-esteem and lack of respect for others. It destroys pride in workmanship, order, and cleanliness. It turns meetings into confrontations, expectations into dread, opportunities into danger, stepping stones into stumbling blocks. It contaminates the mind behind the face with its negative energy and spreads outward like a disease. And then it comes back projected and reflected by other unhappy minds and faces. And here I'd like to take a moment to look at some behaviors and attitudes which are huge parts of the whole judgment conundrum. And I'm going to borrow from a book I just recently discovered called Projections, Expectations, Separations, Judgments, and Rejections by Gary Douglas. And I'm going to borrow this bit right from the beginning of the book because he breaks it all apart pretty succinctly. He says, what are projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections? Projections are expectations you think someone else will do, even if they aren't going to do it. A projection would be, this person is perfect for me. And an expectation would be, this person will have the same point of view about me as I have about them. They'll think I'm perfect for them. Which may not be wrong, let me just say. Judgment is any fixed point of view or any conviction that someone or something has to be a certain way. And I'm going to interject here that judgment is a whole lot more than just these things. It is the foundation all of those other words rest upon. But for today's talk, we'll more or less stick with his definition. Separation, he says, occurs once you do a judgment of any kind. And notice he said a judgment of any kind causes separation. You separate yourself from the person or thing or situation you judge, even if it's you. Rejection is dismissing or refusing something. If the other person doesn't have the same point of view you do, they have to separate, judge, and reject you, or you have to separate, judge, and reject you. Because the other person is separating, judging, and rejecting you. Think about that for a minute, right? How often do we climb back inside ourselves once we have stepped out to say something a little bit daring and somebody laughs or says, no, that's wrong. And then you go, that was really stupid of me. I shouldn't have done that. Right? So you judge and reject you. And I'm going to interject once again here to reiterate that judgment comes first, followed immediately by expectation and or projection, then separation, and leading more often than not to some sort of rejection of self, others, or a situation. Just because I use an author's work to enhance my talk doesn't mean I have to agree entirely with every point they make. And note that my disagreement is not negating his truth. It simply reflects my differing perspective in how we arrive at each of these states he describes. It doesn't make either of us right or wrong. It just delineates my approach from his. All roads up the mountain will lead to the top. He goes on to say, whenever you are doing a projection, an expectation of any kind, you are separating from anything that would give you awareness. Awareness is the place where no point of view is necessary. When you are aware, you have the ability to see and to perceive, to know and to be, and to receive the totality of something in a way, in a way which you don't need to have to come to conclusion. Give me a second here. It seems all the frogs in the 100-acre wood are here too. So, all of those explanations for all of those different terms are a very grown-up way to describe the how and why Eeyore's input rattled Piglet so much, right? And it isn't until way into the end of A.A. Milne's books about Pooh and Piglet that Piglet steps into his real, authentic, strong, confident, and beautifully, gently kind self, leaving all of his doubts and fears behind. Little Piglet, held back by imaginings and fears, yearning to be someone with a capital S. It's the last animal one might expect to accomplish anything of importance, and yet Piglet is the material from which heroes are made. Beneath the stalwart exterior of most any courageous rescuer, gallant fighter, or great achiever, a piglet can be found if one looks closely enough. So it has always been. As history clearly shows, and so we're sure it will always be, unless we can teach the world differently. In many ways, Piglet may appear the least significant of the Pooh characters, yet he is the only one of them to change, to grow, to become more than what he thought he was in the first place. And in the end, he does this not by denying his smallness, but by applying it for the good of others. He accomplishes what he does without accumulating a large ego. Inside, he remains a very small animal, capital letters on all of those, because that is how he refers to himself throughout all of the books, a very small animal, but a very different kind of very small animal resides within than what he was before. For now, though, he hesitates and dreams. He has a good deal to go through before he steps into himself fully. And on page 50 of The Day of Piglet, Benjamin Hoff writes, "How would you sum up Piglet's situation at this point, Pooh?" "With a poem," said Pooh. "Wonderful, I was hoping you would." Animals so shy and small, dreaming you were bold and tall, you hesitate, all sensitive, waiting for a chance to live. Time is swift, it races by. Opportunities are born and die. Still you wait and will not try. A bird without wings who dares not rise and fly. But that you want to see is not you and never will be. No one else will ever do the special things that wait inside of you. You can be a guiding star if you make the most of who you are, and the sensitivity that you're now ashamed to see can be developed even more so you can find the hidden doors to places no one's been before. And the pride you'll feel inside is not the kind that makes you fall. It's the kind that recognizes the bigness found in being small. Thank you, Pooh. That was excellent. Well said, Pooh. It was better than I thought it would be. And my friends, know with me that you are not the hurt you hold for yourself. You're not the I'm nots, the I can'ts, or the I wish I was, I wish I could, or the if only I. You're not the image you've blown up about yourself based on the fears of the world or the judgments of the eons you've encountered and given space within your thoughts and emotions. You are, in fact, and I stress, in fact, even better than Mary Poppins. And she was practically perfect in every way. No, my friends, you are perfect in every way. You always have been. Step out of the judgments and separations and illusions you've lived with for so long and step into the you you've been hiding from. Your real you has been waiting for this moment. Seize it. Thank you.